From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired.
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to the program. Today, a president speaks and a president-elect prepares to retake power. We have the latest, but first, a look at the headlines. Special counsel prosecutors will reportedly shut down the criminal case against Donald Trump before he takes office. This as the special counsel is prohibited from pushing criminal actions against a sitting president under the Justice Department policy. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls President-elect Donald Trump as both leaders refer to each other as true friends. Donald Trump also speaks to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Germany's coalition government falls apart after Chancellor Olaf Scholz sacks his finance minister from an allied party. The opposition calls for snap elections as the ruling coalition stares at a dramatic collapse. Britain's Prince William meets South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in Cape Town. The meeting comes amid the backdrop of assurances from the UK to South Africa that it supports the entry of Africa into the United Nations Security Council. And Colombian President Gustavo Petro offers to assist Haiti in curbing drugs and weapons trafficking. Colombia and Haiti also agreed to hold maritime patrols and joint police training to combat illegal activities. We begin in the United States, where the nation is still processing the election results and prepare for Donald Trump's return to the White House. President-elect Donald Trump will take the oath of office in January as speculation rises about what in fact he will do in the first 100 days of taking power. The president-elect has signaled that he will almost immediately fire special counsel Jack Smith, who is overseeing the federal case over the Republicans' efforts to subvert the 2020 election loss. Donald Trump has also repeatedly pledged to pardon himself and his MAGA supporters who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Meanwhile, Trump's legal team has pushed Justice Juan Merchan to cancel the sentencing in the hush money case rather than delaying it. President-elect Donald Trump's day one agenda is likely to include immigration after repeatedly calling for the mass deportation of migrants during his campaign.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program of criminals in American history. It's going to be the largest deportation of criminals. We're going to get them out of here fast. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered, and we will put the vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country. And I am hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States of America.
However, carrying out a massive deportation operation will not just have logistical roadblocks, but legal ramifications as well, and would cost the country billions of dollars. Now, Donald Trump has also pledged to strengthen the border with Mexico, along with increasing the number of Border Patrol agents. A second Trump administration will get to work on the economy addressing inflation. The president-elect has promised to slap tariffs on imports from China, Mexico, and India, which would severely impact America's relations with these nations. Now, throughout the campaign, Donald Trump promised to end the wars in Europe and the Middle East without offering a concrete plan. With Russia capturing more Ukrainian land and tensions escalating between Israel and Iran, President-elect Donald Trump will have to act fast before the war spiral out of control and hurt American interest. President-elect Donald Trump has long been a climate change denier and wants to increase oil input, with "Drill, baby, drill" being his slogan while campaigning in Pennsylvania.
Two things we're going to, first day, first hour, we can do many things in the first, but first, we're going to drill, baby, drill. And we're going to close our borders to criminals and drug dealers and all of these people coming in from mental institutions and insanes. We're going to have those borders closed.
The president-elect has repeatedly said that he would roll back President Joe Biden's climate measures, which penalize power plants for producing harmful emissions. Other agenda items include cracking down on abortion rights, transgender rights, and downsizing the government. President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to act strong on day one as he promises to use his executive authority aggressively. Vice President Kamala Harris may have lost the election, but she won millions of hearts. Standing on stage at her alma mater, Howard University, she spoke with a steady resolve, urging her supporters not to feel like they are entering a dark time. In her 12-minute speech, the vice president urged her supporters to roll up their sleeves and get ready to put up a resilient fight for democracy. After breaking gender and race barriers, Kamala Harris remains an inspiration for millions of women and young people. Here's more on her historic campaign.
Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
One fall morning in Washington, Vice President Kamala Harris faced a room of union leaders.
Let me start.
She spoke urgently, promising to protect jobs, raise wages, and improve the lives of working Americans. But the team wasn't convinced. They had tough questions. Did she and President Joe Biden truly do enough? Days later, in a historic move, the union withheld its endorsement from a Democratic candidate, and Harris's path to the White House suddenly became steeper. Then, after Joe Biden's sudden exit from the race, Harris was launched at breakneck speed. She spoke passionately about democracy, justice, and the need to protect women's rights. Her historic run as the first woman of color to lead a major party ticket sparked enthusiasm and record-breaking donations. Endorsements rolled in from pop stars like Taylor Swift, Beyoncé, and many more. Former President Barack Obama became her biggest campaigner. And Harris looked like the best contender to beat Donald Trump. But polls indicated that the working class was worried.
Groceries, way too expensive. Jobs really scarce. And I'm just against the deep state and the corruption.
You feel like Donald Trump is the solution to that problem?
Yeah, Elon, Donald.
Tell me how much Elon factored into your thought process. What makes
I was already voting for Trump, but I like Elon anyway. And Elon just landed the booster into the chopsticks.
As Election Day unfolded, it became clear that Donald Trump had secured a comeback. President Joe Biden broke his silence, congratulating Trump on his win and inviting him to the White House to ensure a peaceful transition. But the following evening, the vice president took the stage at her alma mater, Howard University. Her address was not a victory speech, but a concession. Standing against the red-bricked, white-columned backdrop, she wore a sharp burgundy pantsuit. And just like many other addresses, in her speech, she spoke of resilience and a long, ongoing fight. Her voice was steady. She promised the work would continue.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together.
Even though her sleeves stayed down, her message was unmistakable. The battle had been fierce, and she had given it her all.
Now I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election.
In a special appeal to young Americans, the Vice President, with her heart full, urged, "Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place." The generation next of America holds the power, and they showed it this election with a sweeping outcome.
To the young people who are watching, it is... I love you guys. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power.
For some people in the crowd, there were tears. Harris had inspired millions and reshaped what was considered impossible, leaving a legacy of resilience and strength even in defeat. And so, as the lights dimmed and the crowds began to disperse, Kamala Harris took her final bow. Her journey didn't end in the White House, but it closed with dignity, history, and an enduring mark on American politics.
And now a look at the kingmakers. In fact, no businessman in America bet bigger on Donald Trump than billionaire Elon Musk. The world's richest man donated around $119 million to his pro-Trump America PAC. Musk also appeared with Donald Trump at several rallies and interviewed him on his social media platform X. And with Donald Trump's victory, the SpaceX CEO has seen a nearly $20 billion increase in his net worth, as Tesla stocks closed about 15% higher on Wednesday. Moreover, the president-elect has promised Musk a position in his administration to cut costs.
He doesn't want to be secretary. He wants to be a man that can cut costs, have you live even better. You're not going to be affected. But I think he said $2 trillion. And nobody would do it better than him, and he's going to do it very responsibly, and we have to, it's amazing that, he just wants the country. That's why he endorsed me very strongly. Elon Musk, the guy is incredible.
Musk's company SpaceX can also benefit from his government ties, as he's criticized rivals like Boeing in the past. SpaceX is now building spy satellites, and the Pentagon and the CIA could invest billions of dollars into the project. Donald Trump has also pledged to reduce taxes on corporations, a promise that Musk will hope he keeps. Apart from Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are also being heavily credited for Donald Trump's victory. Gabbard is a former Democratic presidential candidate, and Kennedy Jr. is a former Democrat turned independent presidential nominee. Both of them switched sides and endorsed Donald Trump for president and are now expected to get prominent roles in his administration.
And specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party.
And it was inconceivable to me that I would ever leave the Democratic Party. But I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. The Democratic Party that I grew up with was the party of peace. It was the party of civil rights and constitutional rights, and particularly freedom of speech. Today's Democratic Party is the party of war. It's the party of Dick Cheney. It's the party
And last but certainly not least, popular podcast host Joe Rogan's endorsement may have helped Donald Trump win the White House. Not only did Rogan endorse the president-elect, but he also interviewed him for nearly 3 hours in a video that has 46 million views. Joe Rogan also interviewed Donald Trump's running mate JD Vance for nearly 3 hours, which raked in 15 million views. The appearance on the podcast turned out to be a game changer for the Republicans, as Joe Rogan's viewership comprises mostly men, who of course voted for Donald Trump in large numbers this election. Trump took a risk of courting men with a hyper-masculine approach, and the bro politics actually worked like a charm, as he secured a mandate for a second term. And staying with Donald Trump's historic re-election, along with winning 270 electoral college votes, he has become the first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote. The president-elect soared to this historic victory after shifting voters that Democrats once relied on. This time it was Latino voters who became a key part of Donald Trump's voter base. Exit polls show the Republicans saw a 14% increase among Latino voters compared to the 2020 election. Donald Trump also garnered more support from Latino women, as 38% of them voted for Donald Trump, an increase of 8 points from 2020.
So anyway, now I'm happy that he's back, so we can get in, things going. Right now, everything is really bad, the economy and all this stuff. The abortion, you know what, it can be, work on it. You know what I mean? That's not a big deal. I mean, it may be, but not that much of a big deal. Right now, it's just the economy. Get people working, spending money. They don't want to spend anything. Everything too expensive.
Meanwhile, Black Americans, especially men, also voted for Donald Trump in large numbers than before. In the last election, around 90% of the black men voters went to President Joe Biden. However, this time, the figure was around 80% for Kamala Harris, mainly because the Republican managed to make inroads among black men.
I think the black vote, men and women, you have a savvy voter. You don't have people listening to Big Mama anymore making their decisions about voting. And when you have people like Barack Obama and Roland Martin, that they're speaking down to the black community, Charlemagne the God now that you're bringing on, and you're speaking down actually to intelligent black men. But because they don't agree with your democratic rhetoric, they become what? Uneducated. They become stupid, even utilizing the stimulus check as a reasoning.
Even in the swing state of Pennsylvania, which was considered the biggest battleground this election, voters say they were not surprised by Donald Trump's win.
Really, I wasn't surprised, because when I saw last night that he won, I just turned the TV off. I said, this man gonna win. He's gonna win, so I just went to bed.
The surge in support for Donald Trump suggests that his focus on the economy resonated with the working class Hispanic and black voters around America. For voters like them, the president-elect promises of a better economy and job security mattered a lot. Ahead of the election, polls showed that Latinos were drawn to Donald Trump's proposals of stricter immigration laws and blocking migrants from entering the country.
We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to We have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in legally.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump also tapped into the sentiment of out-of-touch liberals as his campaign fanned the issues of transgender rights. Now, this helped the Republican leader in retaining socially conservative groups in rural as well as urban America. By winning the trust of these communities, which propelled Joe Biden to victory in 2020, it is safe to say that Donald Trump has now given Democrats a lot to think about before the next election. And as the nation celebrates a historic election night, all eyes now turn to Usha Vance, the poised and accomplished wife of Vice President-elect JD Vance. In this election, both Usha and Kamala Harris brought a significant milestone for representation, marking the first time two women of Indian heritage stood at the precipice of the White House. Soon, Usha Vance will become America's first Indian origin second lady. But who is she? Our final report offers more.
The clock struck midnight at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, and a wave of excitement swept over the crowd as President-elect Donald Trump strode onto the stage along with his wife, children, and barrage of allies. His running mate JD Vance and his wife Usha stood by the president-elect's side. To a thunderous applause, Trump took the microphone and celebrated the victory.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
Contrary to his speeches in the past, the president-elect took a moment to thank his family and allies for their constant support. Trump paid gratitude to his running mate JD Vance, and amid the celebrations, Donald Trump appreciated the vice president-elect's wife, calling Usha remarkable and beautiful. Donald Trump then handed over the podium to JD Vance. After chants from the crowd, Vance told supporters,
"And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership."
But who is Usha Chilukuri Vance, this poised woman soon to become America's first Indian origin second lady? Her story begins in San Diego, California, where she was raised in a suburb by her Indian immigrant parents, originally from India's state of Andhra Pradesh. After Trump and Vance's historic victory, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh was quick to congratulate the soon-to-be second lady, hailing her Telugu heritage and her roots to Andhra Pradesh. Usha Vance's journey is a remarkable one. With ambition and intellect, Usha attended Yale, where she majored in history, before crossing the Atlantic to study as a Gates Scholar at Cambridge. She earned her Master of Philosophy and then returned to Yale Law School, where she met JD Vance. Their connection was instant, their bond unshakable, and they married in 2014 in a ceremony that honored both Hindu and Christian traditions.
I met JD in law school when he was fresh out of Ohio State, which he attended with the support of the GI Bill. We were friends first because, who wouldn't want to be friends with JD? He was then, as now, the most interesting person I knew. A working-class guy who had overcome childhood traumas that I could barely fathom to end up at Yale Law School. A tough Marine who had served in Iraq, but whose idea of a good time was playing with puppies and watching the movie Babe.
Usha has built an impressive legal career, from clerking for Supreme Court Chief Justices to becoming a corporate litigator. Usha has some commendable achievements. This election, however, marks a particularly historic moment. Not only did Usha's husband become Vice President-elect, but the race itself featured two women of Indian heritage vying for influence in the White House. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris made her own mark as a presidential candidate, while Usha stood by JD's side as he made his bid for the vice presidency. Together, these two women symbolize a powerful moment of change and diversity in American politics. The journey of the Vances is nothing short of a modern American dream. And as JD promised, they are just getting started, ready to champion the dreams of every American from every corner of the country.
That's all we have time for today. We certainly thank you once again for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired.
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.
Hello and welcome.